What's going on, my fellow rock and rollers? Don't forget to hit the bell notification icon to be notified every time I put out a new video on my channel. Today we're talking about one of the weirdest acts in rock and roll, the Butthole Surfers, and I've had a few people ask me to do this topic, and today we're finally going to tackle it. The Butthole Surfers started out as a drug-fueled post-punk band from Texas. After all, they really had nothing to lose. They were like the Bradley Cooper of rock and roll. What do I mean by this? Well, they both found major success much later on in their career, and their live shows were an assault on the senses. Rumored onstage sexual antics and disturbing images projecting above the stage were all pretty standard. There was also an instance when full-frontal nudity happened at an all-ages show. And bassist Jeff Pincus would tell Classic Rock magazine, "I think we inspired other people to be more debauched." In an interview with Kerrang! Online, guitarist Paul Leary talked about how frontman Gibby Haynes went on a bender on stage in Rotterdam in the Netherlands at a show where the Cult had just played. He ended up in a dress and threw chairs at the audience, and ironically though, this was really when the band started to take off in Europe. Leary couldn't take all the sound equipment back himself, so he hid it under the bushes overnight. At a February 1986 show in New York, the band used piss wands, which were plastic baseball bats filled with, well, you know, that were waved around the crowd. And from the get-go, the band was single-minded in their mission. They wanted to do something that other bands hadn't, with guitarist Paul Leary explaining to Classic Rock, "We'd ask ourselves what we wanted to see from a rock band, something that nobody else was doing. We were influenced by psychedelic bands, so we wanted strobes. Soon we had shotguns, walls of strobe lights, and movies showing penis reconstruction. It just seemed like a kick in the ass to do. It helped that there was no message in what we were trying to convey. It was all nihilistic," he'd say. And their onstage behavior soon crossed over to offstage antics. Leary would explain, "It was just a party every night. Gibby was definitely our ringleader. We would go into a new town every day, raise as much hell as we wanted, get to drink beer for free, act like lunatics, and make a big mess, and then move on to the next town," he'd remember. And one of the most ridiculous offstage antics was touching their manhood to a briefcase used by President Jimmy Carter. And for a band that could be so visceral, they were actually inspired by some pretty intellectual philosophies. Dadaism, also known as the art of the absurd, and Friedrich Nietzsche's nihilism both influenced the group. Frontmen Gibby Haynes and Paul Leary formed the Butthole Surfers in 1981 in San Antonio, Texas. Ironically, the band members had some pretty wholesome backgrounds, as Haynes' father hosted a children's program in Dallas called Mr. Peppermint, and Leary's father was the business school dean at Trinity College in Dallas. They were influenced by punk rock bands like Black Flag and the Dead Kennedys. In what should have been a clue for what lay ahead, the pair created a humorous magazine called Strange VD, which looked at bizarre medical problems. Haynes was working at an accounting firm at the time when he was fired by his superiors after they found pages from the magazine in the company printer. And it didn't really matter since the Butthole Surfers had already formed. Leary would paint a funny picture of what the band's early rehearsals looked like, saying, "We'd go over to our drummer's house in the evening and start rehearsing. Gibby would usually get off work late at the accounting firm, stumble into practice in his suit and tie, and immediately start stripping down to his boxer shorts while we were playing. That's how it got incorporated into our live show. We'd play until the police came and turned the power off." In the early to mid-80s were formative years for the band. In San Francisco in 1981, the Surfers met the Dead Kennedys' Jello Biafra, who signed the band to his alternative Tentacles label. King Coffee and Teresa Nervosa joined the band as percussionists in 1983, while Jeff Pincus joined in 1986 as bassist. And there was no one label to fit the band's music. The band blended elements of punk, metal, psychedelic rock, and just strange noises. Shortly before Jeff Pincus joined the band, they released what many called their weirdest album, and that's saying a lot when you're talking about the Butthole Surfers. 1985's Rembrandt Pussy Horse was a bizarre soundscape featuring both drones, Middle Eastern instrumentation, and farts. There were satanic undertones and freaky lyrics throughout the album, and the band's label at the time refused to publish the record. Considered one of the band's finer moments, Locust Abortion Technician would be released in 1987 and recorded in Wintergreen just outside Athens, Georgia. It's rumored that the band stalked Michael Stipe of REM during this time, even pulling up in front of his house. And the album featured the spoken word Black Sabbath cover called Sweet Loaf, and the album is sometimes seen as the precursor to grunge music that followed over the next several years. The album featured two sinister-looking clowns playing with a puppy, so it's no surprise that the album was just as unsettling. Former Melody Maker journalist David Stubbs said in a 2012 The Quietest Online article that Locust's abortion technician, impacted like a whale on a beach, exploded by the deadly buildup of its internal gases. This right here in every right head was the state of rock. Before the album came out, the band spent 6 years living out of a van with a pit bull, surviving on beer, LSD, and small change from bottle refunds. And Leary would say in a 2017 interview with The Quietest Online that we were depraved people, always scrounging for our next meal and our next six-pack, that kind of thing. And in an interview with Kerrang! Online, Leary says that they were still so broke while living in Wintergreen, Georgia, and recording Locust Abortion Technician in a rented house, that they would ride their bikes to Athens to get food just so they could stop walking 4 hours each way to stock up. And the band lived near a meat processing plant, and they would go and record the sound of cows mooing at night. And Locust Abortion Technician explored some pretty bizarre corners of pop culture. The last track on the album, 22 going on 23, might be the most unsettling of them all. It features a voice clip of a young woman calling into a talk radio show, talking about how she's been assaulted. Another woman calls in to complain about a loveless marriage. Then it fades out to the sounds of cows mooing. And the track Cherub got the video treatment. The first minute features a bored-looking suburban businessman wandering around his kitchen, and then staring deep into a bowl of Fruit Loops. By the early 90s, the band signed with Capitol Records after their label filed bankruptcy. Capitol Records was insistent that the group's major label debut, 1993's Independent Worm Saloon, be produced by Led Zeppelin's John Paul Jones to improve the chances that a mainstream audience would take a liking to the band. According to Leary, the band's corporate overlords did little to sway the band's working style, with him remembering to Classic Rock magazine. I'd been messing around in the back room of my house and recorded a lot of guitar that ended up on the album, so our working methods didn't really change a whole lot, other than the fact we had a budget and a bass player from Led Zeppelin. He was a lot of fun. We showed up in the studio and John Paul Jones and I discovered we liked the same brand of whiskey. The next day they brought 2 bottles and we drank those, and they kept doubling the number of bottles. We ended up drinking until 6 o'clock every morning. I believe he quit drinking altogether after that. The album would also prove to be more straightforward for the band and would produce a modest radio hit with the song Who Was in My Room Last Night. The Butthole Surfers were a big influence for Kurt Cobain, and it's even rumored that he met Courtney Love at one of their shows. In 1996, the band released their biggest commercial record with 1996's Electric Larryland, and the single Pepper topped the modern rock charts and was the band's biggest hit to date. But the success was almost a curse, as Leary would reveal. When we signed to Capitol, they didn't have a clue what to suggest or demand. That was until we got a gold record and a hit. All of a sudden, people were lining up around the block telling us what to do. Having a hit single was not a whole lot of fun. With all the success came further troubles, as their planned album in 1998, After the Astronaut, was shelved temporarily. During the same time, the band split with their manager, and 5 years after Electric Larryland came out, the band finally released their follow-up record, 2001's Weird Revolution. It was a difficult time in the early 2000s for the band, with them splitting up, with the members pursuing other musical projects, until they had sporadic reunions in the years that followed. And while it seemed like the band was done putting out new music, fans were happy to hear Leary admit, "We've got a couple interested labels and the goal is to record a new album. I realize we're middle-aged men now, but we're gonna do it because that's what we gotta do." Making Weird Revolution was a gut-wrenching process, and it put us out of commission for a long time. It was such a painful thing to go through that's taken years to get over it. Now I figure we have a shot at going back and doing things the way we want. It's time to try again, he'd say recently. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe. If you guys have suggestions for future topics, let me know in the comment section below. Take care.